We have half Betty with us. Half Betty, half Betty. We are so lucky that we have been introduced to Andrea and Krista of the Half Betty podcast. I'm just so glad that you guys are part of this women midlife podcast circle. Not a lot of us. And we have actually found some that we love, and then noticed that they are no longer, like, they put out like 10 or 12 episodes that are amazing,
Interesting.
and they're not there anymore. When I say that, there are a few midlife women podcast celebrities who are doing it, but I'm saying like us, the normal,
regular everyday people.
Regular everyday people who going through the regular everyday. Not to say that they're not, but just loving this connection. So thank you guys for coming and sharing you with us on the Wisdom and Bloom podcast, as we did with you.
Thank you.
What is this? What is this?
Yeah.
Again? What do they call?
That's clapping, like clapping.
Oh,
or like snapping.
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 You got some serious nails there, girl.
Yeah, I did. But
You
Kamesha,
did.
what
I
are
love
the kids doing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the T. That's what, like, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the little T. Or you can do
know.
it with this finger too.
Okay. It means it's a good thing.
So tell us about Half Betty and what made you ladies want to start this podcast.
Are you
She's
pointing
on
at me?
Andrea.
It's on you.
Okay.
Andrea.
Yep.
When I was in my late 40s and coming up to my 50th birthday, I was having all of the experiences of really trying to really understand what turning 50 meant for me in the context of what the world also had been telling women by and large. So I was obviously hearing the narrative that existed around, 50 being a very particular age where women really do become invisible or no longer relevant, no longer fashion icons or beauty icons or, strength icons or leader icons. Like all of these things seem to kind of hinge on this age, this 50. And so when I actually turned 50, I was on the day, I remember thinking, I cannot somehow reconcile this narrative that exists with how I actually feel, me personally. I didn't feel, I felt so far away from all of the things that were said in the world. I felt so far away from being faded and less courageous and all the things. I just felt I couldn't reconcile with the narrative. And somebody said to me on my team, a team of amazing humans, that I was fortunate to lead. Somebody said, well, Betty White her birthday is also the same day today, January 17th. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that it was Betty White's birthday. We share this birthday. And then I was told that it would have been her 100th. She had just passed away. In fact, January 17th is our shared birthday, and Betty White had passed away 17 days before her 100th birthday. So on the day, January 17th, 2022, that she would have turned 100, I turned 50, which is exactly half Betty's age. And that was what gave birth to Half Betty. But what I realized was that Betty White did more from the age of 50 to 17 days before her 100th birthday. She did more in that span of time than she did leading up to the age of 50. Her greatest kind of accomplishments, launching of some of her greatest, kind of legacies, winning awards, being acknowledged for some of the things that she had done or started or initiated. All of that happened after the age of 50. So I thought, gosh, isn't Betty White an icon for not just me, but for all women and all the other women out there that are like Betty White? That just means a woman who is 50 or older doing all the things that they had been told by society that they weren't capable of doing. And so if we fast forward a little bit from that time, that realization, I was in a very, very low point in my career, in that I was really, really struggling with, I felt like I was in a place where it was no longer, like I just wasn't a fit, and I was yearning for something more. There were some struggles with just the way that the organization was moving and shifting and changing, and how the world was, in fact, at the time. And in order to feel invigorated, I'm always needing to be in something deeply creative and something where I'm making something or contributing to something. And so I saw a post on LinkedIn, which was by a local to Vancouver, which is where we're located, media company. And they posted, "We would love to get more women into podcasting." So we're having a contest for women to pitch a podcast idea, because we want to have a winner that's a woman, and then help support that woman and that winning podcast into the world. And so I thought, you know what? This is creative. My background is writing. I've done a lot of writing, and I just felt drawn to it. And I thought, I'm going to write about this idea of Half Betty. And it's going to be a place where there are women and in their midlives. So anywhere from in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And it's going to start there, and it's going to be a gathering place for women to share conversationally their stories of the things that come up and arrive in those years, that ask them to evaluate where they are, imagine what they could do, dream, and then put that into place, transform, perhaps through really challenging things, grief, loss, reimagining of who they are. And I just wanted to create a place where women could share those stories, so that all the other women out there in the world hear that there's other people experiencing things that they themselves are experiencing, and they would no longer feel alone or isolated, or like only they are feeling the way that they're feeling. And so I won that.
Congratulations.
Wow.
And thank you. And I did not know, now that I won, what the heck I was going to do about making a podcast, which I'd never done in my life. My background is film, photo, creative direction, writing, but not podcast. And I happened to be so fortunate that Krista and I had crossed paths. This is the serendipity. And we were working together on a set. And I had only met Krista one time before this. And when I'd won the contest was right when we were literally going to be working together again. And I basically said, Krista, I know we don't know each other all that well, but I feel like somehow we're kindred spirits. We get each other. I've won this contest. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I'm terrified. Will you do this with me? And she had a look at this concept, this Half Betty concept, and she just looked at me and she went, I'm in. I'm all in. And by the time that I drove home that night from that shoot and woke up the next morning, I opened my computer, and Krista had created a deck with all the things that we could do, like all the ideas around how to bring this to life with her brain, which is like just fantastical. And I just thought, my gosh, like I've literally been delivered this amazing opportunity, and exactly the right person has shown up in my life. And we said, we're not just doing one episode, which was what the contest offered us.
Yeah.
Really? It was just one episode. That was all you needed to do.
It was that was the winnings of the contest, was that they would kindly and generously support teaching us all about how to do a podcast itself, like record it and, all of those kind of steps. But it was not beyond that. And Krista and I were like, neither one of us are a one and done. Like we are all in, we're going to make this happen. And so we took it from being an audio only podcast recording. We brought it to life. We did it in real life. We did it in a studio. We did audio, video. We incorporated sound, because all of these elements, Krista and I both know how much those impact the output. And so we said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And so we went all in, and we haven't stopped since. And it's now year 2, and however many guests we've had. And it's been wild. And what did I miss out, Krista?
Yeah, what
I don't
made
think
you say yes immediately,
I was gonna
Krista?
say that.
And not
That
have
made
to
you
think.
feel like you were the girl. You are the person. You were her person for this.
Right. And you had a whole book of ideas. Like ready,
Yeah, that's my
ready to
brain.
go.
It was a download. Well, Andrea's so, you know her now. Like, Andrea's just so captivating and encouraging and supportive, and everything I do now just has to be aligned. And it was completely aligned. I mean, I'm 49 now. I'll be 50 next year in February. And, I've been through a lot, and I could relate to a lot of things that, she was talking about and wanted to speak about and wanted to tap into others. And it just felt aligned to me. And it felt really easy because it was a bit of a puzzle. It still is a puzzle piece, right? Where we fill in the gaps and we fit the pieces together, and we can lean on each other because life and midlife, right? Like, things happen all the time. And, the beauty of all of this really is that it's the two of us and a sound engineer. And so we get to very much be into the creative and the deadlines and the scheduling and the marketing and the branding and all the things. And it's us. We get to decide. And it just felt so great that when I started thinking about it that night, I was like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. Well, let me research this. I think I was up till like 2:00 in the morning. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. I was like, I have to write this down because I don't want to forget. And I put it into a big folder and I just like hit send. And I was like, I think those are all my thoughts. I'm going to go to bed.
That's everything. That's everything.
And she's been doing that ever since. So this is the thing, is that is like, that set the tone that is how Krista works, is that she, and with her and I, like we have what feels like this beautiful dance of, a whole bunch, like if it was like a Venn diagram, it would be like there's a whole bunch in the middle that overlaps that is the same.
Yeah.
Like we have a brain that thinks very similarly. We have the creative spirit that's very similar. We have vision that is very similar. So there's all that is consistent and so deeply aligned that we don't even have to like really say anything to each other about it. And then the beautiful part is that we also have these separate areas that we each have, skill set and natural kind of talent or vision for that are complementary. So when I get stuck around something, I'm like, oh, well, this is not where Krista will know. And sure enough, like I know right away, Krista's like, I just need to ask Krista because she'll know. And so there's this beautiful synchronicity and dance in the way that we work together. And I think with all of that, there's also this incredible respect and love for each other's beings, but also talents and stories and what we bring. And there's also a deep honesty. So there, of course, there have been there's only like a tiny little handful of moments where in all the throes of everything we're doing, I might write something and then be like, oh, I wonder if that kind of contradicted something Krista might have said or thought. Right. And then I get kind of panicky because I'm like, oh my gosh, did I do something? And nervous. Because that's just my nature. And then Krista will come back and she'll say, hey, I noticed that thing. I wonder if maybe you were thinking about and then wrote this, but maybe you were also thinking about this in the background and it was more this. And I'll go, oh my God. So there's this gentle way of providing honest feedback to one another in a way where it's clear and direct, but also held with a spirit of grace and kindness for each other, because we know that neither of us is ever doing anything other than what we need to do for this work and for each other. But I think that's been largely lost in a lot of corporate cultures and certainly a lot of relationships, is recognizing that people are doing their very best and people are not out there trying to be dickheads.
Not most of them.
Well,
not most of them.
Right. I don't think most people are. Some are.
But by and large, people are just trying their best. And I love that Krista and I have fostered such a such a trusting and kind and generous and loving place that we can have those conversations and know that it's because the person we just are absolutely supportive of one another in everything that we're doing. And I've got your back, you've got mine, and I know you've got my best interest and I've got yours. And that's why this just continues to work.
And something early that you said was like, look, and if we're not having fun, then we just have to figure it out. Like, we have to have fun. Like what, like this isn't, none of this is worth it if we are not having fun and learning something and
learning something. That is,
you know,
we've learned so much since we've been in this podcast and the guests that we've had. One thing that Andrea said was about Half Betty and about how Betty White from 50 to 17 days prior to her 100 is how she had did so much. And I hear people always talk about that she did a lot too in her 20s and 30s and, you know, where she was just starting to be this actress in her 20s and she was already idealistic and inclusive. And when other people of color or anything was treated in a bad way on her set, that she would say, no, if you can't treat them right, then I'm not going to be a part of this. And how she has turned down roles and, you know, tons of money because of that. And I'm saying that to say this. In her 20s and 30s, it's almost like she kind of had it figured out which direction she would go. And then from her 50s on, it was like she had ramped up, you know.
Love that.
In your 20s, in your 30s, do you feel that if this opportunity for a podcast had come your way, would you had still felt the same as you feel about it now, helping the community that you're helping now? Would you feel the same to help that then community? And do you feel like this is almost like a second chance, a second birth to help others in the way that you would have loved to have done back then?
What a great question.
And I'll start with you, Krista. What do you think?
Well, okay, so I want to clarify because this is what I do. Sorry. I want to clarify. It's 2026 and I'm anywhere between 20 and 30, or are we going back to when I was 20 or 30? Because there's a difference.
Going back because, what a different time to be 20 right now.
Because that time in the world, but also just, you know, in that time of my life, I was a very different person. And I was like, I feel like the life that I was living in my 20s was so full and so vibrant. And in a way, like, I wouldn't have had a podcast, but in a way I was kind of buzzing around the world. Like I was a singer dancer on cruise ships in my 20s. Like I was everywhere doing all the things, meeting all the people. So in a way, like if podcasts were a thing back then, maybe I would have done it. But I feel like the one thing, if we go back, like the one thing that people used to say about me was like, how do you, even my mom, my parents, you know, how do you keep in touch with everybody? You're always so good at making sure that you're communicating with all these people that you've met on these ships that you've worked on around the world. And that's also how I was able to travel so much, because I would remain friends with everybody. And then he'd be like, I want to go to Australia. Oh, I'll call my friend Rob. Like, hey. And he's like, yeah, come. And you can stay with me and you can stay with my friend. And then another, couple that, worked on the ship that were also from Australia. They're like, yeah, come and hang out with us. And maybe you could help us and like walk our kids to school in the morning. And then you can have your days free. Or, I ran out of money and then I went over to Melbourne and like hung out with another woman who just got a divorce. And, she had 2 kids to figure out how to handle on her own. And she was like, why don't you stay with me? And then, I was just constantly connecting, constantly keeping in touch, constantly learning about myself, but also others and how people in different countries like reacted. I mean, the very first ship I ever worked on when I was 19 and then again when I was like 21, we were the only ship at the time to be able to fly the United Nations flag because there was at least one person from each country represented in the crew.
Oh, wow.
And that fact I've always held on to because we would go to the crew bar and have a drink and have some French fries or something, or like, as you do, just like relaxing for the day. And there would be all these really interesting conversations that would be going on in different languages, different cultures. There would be definitely misunderstandings, but we figured it out. Like we all got along. We all remained friends. We all would have our moments, but then we would connect again and someone would help. Like, oh no, I know he might have said it like that, but he didn't mean it in that way. He, the language barrier or the cultural difference was, that it was the intent was to help, but it really didn't sound like that, or it didn't look like that, and so I would learn at 19, 20, 21 how to like navigate situations. And it was so incredible. So I don't know, like if podcasts were a thing, then maybe I would have had my own podcast. But I feel like I kind of
But you was already
had this like
in your own community. You was already connected in your own way. So generally who you were as that connector then is really kind of translating into who you are, connecting on a different level now. So I love What about
I
you?
take a lot of joy in connecting people and also just learning.
I can tell.
Something you just said, Krista, also, so this is maybe we're going to feel like we're reflecting on our podcast with the two of you when I say, Krista, I didn't know this about you. And of course, I'm still learning, but that was a reoccurring theme when we talked to both you, Kamesha and Denise, was learning new things about our friends.
When did she go? So when did this
See, you learned something new again. Some four of us, we learned things about each other.
She said she don't want to talk about
Another thing that I thought was actually really interesting, Krista, is that when you described that there was the UN flag because there was representation from all the UN nations. Kamesha, you talked about when you worked at Disney World, how all the people that worked in the commissary had name tags with their countries that they were from, and they were legit from all of those countries. And it was like a ton of different people from a ton of different countries. And so those two things kind of
and I was in my 20s when that happened.
And you were in your 20s. So there's like something there that was like feeling very familiar to me. So isn't that interesting? Like there's something very global. And then we talked about Benetton and we talked about, Denise, you living over in it. Like there was something very international or global in these conversations, which I find really interesting.
And still connecting. If you see that
very
journey,
connecting.
You're still connecting and intentionally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Haphazard, which I know that could happen. Intentionally, you're still connecting because back then maybe you didn't know that was the thing, but now because it felt so good and so familiar, you want to continue that type of journey in the connections of people.
Well, you didn't know, right? What you didn't know at the time. I mean, before I went to Disney World, well, I had been to Disney World before, but before I worked there, I didn't know those people were really from those countries, right?
Yeah.
You
just think they're maybe like,
and you're just like,
it's made up or something.
Right. Like you have to have somebody say they're from this country because we're in Epcot and this is France, right? So somebody's going to say they're from France.
Yeah, true.
But there definitely was, I think because of the age too, you're open, right? You're more open to learning and you just have this natural kind of curiosity about life and the world. And you don't have all of these other things that inhibit you, as you get older, whether it be family or children or spouses or whatever, you're just you. And you're like, oh my God, I love this environment and I want to learn more about it. And if you're open to it, I suppose it can stick with you, right? And if you have a good experience with it, like I had a great experience. I'm very curious anyway. And so I'm also from New York. So I'm used to people from different places and I like that. And I've always enjoyed it. And so it was something that was even bigger than just, the New York people that I knew. Like these were people from way across the world, not just, like the Caribbean or, like nearby countries, kind of like where I lived in New York City. It was like a little Caribbean island. That's where a lot of the people were from. But it still helped me to understand about different people and cultures. And I've always loved that. And I don't know if it's because of my environment that made me love it because I was just surrounded by it, or I just like enjoyed it so much and fed into it that it just continued like even to today. I just love meeting people from different places.
And where I grew up in the South, very limited resources, limited finances. for sure. And I think the closest, even like when we're talking about horses, the closest I've ever even seen a horse or been a horse was my friend had two incredibly large Great Danes. To me, they looked like horses.
They do look like horses.
Those are big dogs.
They are big.
They were the biggest, tallest dogs I had, with the biggest face that I had ever seen. But
And how old were you? Because that would change things too if you were really young.
Teenager.
Yeah.
From the matter of fact, when I first met him, we was in middle school, or right coming out of elementary into middle school, and he had these dogs, and they were very vibrant. By the time we got to high school, they had gotten older, and by the time we went off to college, military, they had passed away. But I just remember them being so big, but I didn't have that experience, or had the pleasure of having that experience where being around so many different people, different cultures, and different ethnicity. I didn't have that until I went into the military, but I knew I wanted it. There was something inside of me from early on. There was something. And of course, I also had some very traumatic things happen being in the South, and being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and being called the N-word, and still that never deterred me. I still wanted to know about other cultures and other, how other people lived and how other people treated, other people. But I didn't get to feel that until I went into the military, but it felt like home. You know what I mean? It felt like home to be able to connect with people who were not like me, who came from other parts of the country or other parts of other, states, and lived different, different religion, different backgrounds. I just remember longing for that as a kid. Not even know what I'm longing for, but I just remember wanting to know different. I just wanted to know difference.
I love
I'm
that.
very grateful that God had put me on a path, even through my traumas, that I can continue to connect with people who had my best interests at heart, of different cultures and different colors and different lifestyles and different genders. And I think that we're so blessed and lucky to be able to not get it, but want it and be able to receive it. I do
Not
like
get
that.
it, but be
Yeah, I
able
love
to
that.
want it and receive it.
and receive it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
And
just
and
different.
yeah, and Kamesha too, like in your 20s, right? Like you were saying, like you were very open, like you were, well, and Andrea too, right? You moved around all over the place when you were growing up. So was that a similar thing for you too?
This portion of today's episode is sponsored by Karviva. All opinions are our own, and we only share what we genuinely love. Use code WIBCarviva to save 15%. Link is in the show notes.
Kamesha, guess what?
What?
It's our midlife wellness pause, and it is time for us to detox. We started our detox today. What flavor are you having with Karviva Detox?
I am having the aloe, kale, and pineapple with mung beans.
Oh, I got to try that one. I am doing the grape and kiwi. It has aronia berry and mung bean sprouts, and it is actually good. And I'm really surprised how good it is, because I've done a couple of other detox, and sometimes they have like that little bitter flavor to it when you do. But this one doesn't. It is really good. It's plant based, and it has prebiotic fiber in it. It's the antioxidant juice, and it's not super sweet. Not super sweet.
That's because it doesn't have there's no added sugar.
Yeah.
That's why. There's no added sugar in these. This drink only has 7 grams of sugar. That's the thing I liked about, wanting to try this detox, is that it was whole plant. I've been trying to do better with my wellness journey.
No, especially in midlife and menopause, anything that can help us kind of support this whole routine of getting older, and drinking something that will help promote the wellness is all good. And with this detox, what I found, this is the other thing I found that I was super surprised with, is some detox, they are extreme. This one is very gentle. Very gentle.
Yes.
So
Yes, it is.
I'm really liking it. It's by Karviva, and everything is doctor formulated through traditional Chinese medicine. And I'm loving it. Like you said, it's low on the sugar, made right here in the USA. And it comes in different flavors. Great about this detox is different flavors.
Well, you're right, because some detox is the same drink. You keep drinking the same drink. This one, you actually have different choices for their detox juices.
It's Karviva.com and use our discount code. You'll get a whole 15% off, which is super cool. And our discount code is what, Kamesha?
It's WIB Karviva.
There you go. Like we always say, everybody likes to save a little cash. Everybody.
When you're 20, there's just so much going on, and it's exciting.
I feel like that you really kind of touched on what I was thinking about and listening to as you both described where you grew up and how your lives looked. And I was thinking about growing up in very, very, very rural, very small, often environmentally unfriendly in some places, because I lived in northern Canada as a young child where, you know, our primary transportation was a snowmobile or because there was snow more than there was not snow.
Yeah.
There were days where we weren't able to go outside because it would be so cold that you actually were warned about leaving the house.
Oh, wow.
So environmentally, there was also like the beauty of these places. They were the most wild places. There weren't a ton of people. There wasn't, there wasn't a lot of human impact. We lived in places where it was wild. It was mountains were my backyards. You know, dog sled racing was something that happened through the town that I lived in at one point. We'd all go out. You'd go out bundled up like you looked like you actually couldn't move because you'd be so layered.
Yes.
But, you know, in all of these small towns, and I moved frequently enough, and as a girl, I felt like I moved at some of those really challenging times for young girls. Moved, you know, at the age of 6. So I had to start elementary school without knowing anybody. And then I had to move at 13 and start all over again and make friends as a 13-year-old girl, which is really a tough time. 13, 14 is a very, very tricky time. The towns that we kept on moving to were very, very sparsely populated, and often they had a lot of folks from other places, which meant that not only was I in a small town, but I was, or I shouldn't even say that. I should say, because this is how I felt. I was always excited that when we moved to these small towns, I would be yet again exposed to a whole bunch of people who would be from all over. Because oftentimes the industries of these towns would draw people from around the world.
Right.
So as an example, if they were mining towns, they would bring in people from all over Europe and other parts, South America. There would be people who would come for that industry. They'd move their families to be part of this industry. Or if it was logging, or if it was whatever it would be, the industry of these small towns would draw people from all over. So I always loved that there would be an opportunity to meet all these new people from all over in a small setting, very, very much influenced by nature. Nature is like something that is so deep in me because of these places that I lived. And then on top of that, I had the experience of having one parent, my dad, that I mentioned earlier, being a Canadian, born and raised in the middle provinces of our country, in the prairie provinces, from hardworking farm families, very agricultural background, farming, and all of my family that are back there on the prairies of Canada. And then my mom is from the south of England, and completely different experience, like polar opposites.
Right, night and day.
apart from the fact that she was also from the English countryside. She wasn't from the city, she was from the countryside, but she worked so hard to raise my family with my dad being off working as a police officer and working like what they called graveyard shifts, like if that tells you anything, like graveyard shifts. So he worked like nights for days on end and he would sleep all day and we never saw him. And there's my mom, who came from the lovely English countryside, and she's thrown into like freaking -40, dark all the time, and no people, and her only vehicle is a snowmobile.
A snowmobile. Gosh.
And 2 young children that she has to try and manage. But she worked multiple jobs, always to make enough money to take the family back to England to see her family and our extended family. And every year I knew that we would go to England. And for me, it was that became part of my story, was this experience of the ruralness and the vastness of Canada and the smallness of these towns and the communities that built these towns and that made these towns work, because you had to find your community in these little towns. You knew everybody knew you. You helped everybody helped you. And then going to what felt like this other world where it was different culture and different accents and different traditions and a historical depth that I didn't really feel like I had in Canada. And I feel like I really toggled between those two aspects. So Britain gave me my first introduction in those early years to music, fashion, like arts and culture. And design, film. And I just soaked up the British, all of that influence of all of that. And then I would partner that with my love for community and who people are for one another. And I think those two things together are what kind of had me arrive in my 20s, where I went to school to be a journalist initially and a photojournalist. And I thought that's what I wanted to do, because I wanted to write the stories of people from around the world and collect those stories and share those stories and capture them in photo. And I had a passion for bringing that to life and sharing that with people, because people are just so incredibly fascinating. Every single human is so fascinating. And yet in my second year of photojournalism and journalism, I realized that what I was going to end up probably needing to take photos of and write about were the hardest, most heart-crippling things for me, a deep path, because what you need to be able to write about are the things that most painful things that are happening to humans.
Right.
And I had a moment where I realized that would kill me. If I had to write about it or photograph it and not be able to make it better or to help, which was not legit, I would never be able to help every single human that I came across, and every child and every mom and it would undo me. So I pivoted and I finished my degree in communications and media, and I went into radio for a time. But similarly, they want you to they gave me a police scanner, and all they wanted me to do was go out to where all the accidents had just happened, or that house was on fire.
That's the news.
I was like,
all the bad stuff.
I need to move from this. And so I think for the vast majority of my career, and still now, what I pivoted into was the creative side of me, which is design and cadence and rich ways of telling stories and bringing them to life, but stories that aren't fraught with all the harshest of things. But I still needed that. So while my career was in the creative side, I have always been invested in a volunteer capacity with working with victim services. So working with people who are victims of crime, working with the police department as a victim service worker, working in suicide prevention, working in crisis management, working with troubled youth and youth with, who are experiencing challenges. So I think I've really found that my entire career has been those two parts put together. And when Half Betty arrived, it felt like it took those two, which had kind of been living slightly separately, and mashed them together, because I could, with Krista, create the brand, do all the visual and storytelling and branding and identity and marketing and creative. With Krista, we could do all that, which would light up that creative part, and also be in service of people. In this case, women and men with Half George, and then expand it to include intergenerational, which is something that Krista and I both know that we want to do with this. So I knew that it was like taking the two things that I was most passionate about and mashing them together and bringing those two pieces together and making that what I now get the opportunity to do.
What's so interesting to me is, as I'm listening to like everybody's story about where we all come from. So we all come from different places, vastly different places across the two countries. But we all had this same desire to learn about other people. We all had this same need to actually get out in the world and see what was out there and believe that it was going to be good people and good things that we were going to find. And even in our 20s or teens, as Denise was when she went out into the military, we're still those women. We're still those girls. We're just doing it in a different way now, right? We still want the people, right? We still want the community. We still believe in all these cultures and all of the differences and all of the great things. And we still want to learn and love on all of these different people. Now we just get to do it like in a different format, right? Than the way that we did it 30 years ago, you know, when we were much younger. But that same desire is still there. We're the same.
Yeah. So true.
That's what I heard.
So
like, that's
true.
just what I
love
heard
that.
from us with everyone's story.
But do you think motherhood changed that a little bit? Do you think we've kind of changed throughout the decades? Not maybe become a little bit more reserved at connecting because of motherhood? Because I did find myself at one point in my life as a mother not feeling that I should be so free to connect. I found myself being reserved, overprotective about who I now into my life, into my circle, how I connect. I still had the desire to connect, but I found myself kind of holding myself back because of becoming a mother. So have you guys ever experienced that?
I can relate to that in the way of the families, like of the friends that my kids tend to, you know, make friends with. So it's kind of an instant, like, oh, I look at their friends, or I guess it starts with like, oh, my friend so and so, and I'm like, what do you like about that person? And then I learn a bit more. Oh, they're funny, or they're really kind, or, you know, whatever those characteristics are about the friends. And then from that, it's usually a reflection of the parents. And so we tend to hang out more with parents and families and kids that are like-minded. So in that sense, it feels very organic. And it's really cool now. I mean, I have twin boys and they're 10, and how they gravitate to similar kids and families that have similar values to us. So in a way, it happens organically now. But I also, you know, I'm witness to kids and families that don't share the same values, and it's hard for me to lean into those relationships. It's school, so it's not like we can avoid. So it's great to be able to have those conversations too and say, look, there's all kinds of people that make up this world. I know I'm learning a lot about myself, like watching my kids grow up and being able to have those conversations. And I'm able to use those moments as teachable moments, not only for them, but for me too, being like, I can see how hard that is, or, you know, talk about certain situations that didn't go the way that they wanted them to go. And then we have a chance over dinner. You know, we put our devices away at dinner time and we have real conversations about moments in our day, you know, highlights, lowlights. We talk about it all. And that always tends to come back to the people and what they're going through. Or, you know, when I was growing up, my mom, I always remember, like, you never know why they acted like that. You can't judge. You don't know what they're going through at home. Yeah. Or what just happened to them or some of their family members or, you never know. So it's okay to take a moment and give them another chance. Right. So we talk a lot about that, but I feel like, I feel like it's a kind of an organic thing that's happened since I've become a parent where we tend to gravitate to the ones that are aligned. Yeah. Yeah. And also I'm better at saying not no, but like I'm better at kind of the filter of like, oh, it was so nice to meet you. And I don't need to know your everything and be involved in your life in that deep level that I used to in my 20s, where I was keeping everybody's phone number and everybody's email address and everybody's contact information. Like I needed it. And then there became a moment where I was like, oh, actually, I can choose, right? I can choose who I'm friends with. And now it's very much like that. I meet people that like Andrea, I met Andrea in my late 40s and we were so close. Like, and it's so beautiful. And like, it was unexpected and it wasn't something that I thought I would have later in my life. And it's been so incredible to add that to my life as this another puzzle piece, another comfort level of like trust and care and love and kindness and support and passion. And we get to create together and it serves me, it serves her. Like those are the kinds of relationships that I'm very choosy about now. So I can see kind of both sides a little bit, but these relationships, like the one I have with Andrea, they're very rare now. Yeah. Because I'm protective of my time and my family. All that.
I heard someone say, as we get older, we start trading perfection for peace. And I tend to think it's true because you found a peace and a calm in Andrea, and you're making choices intentionally. I feel the same way about Kamesha. You never think you will. You always think you're going to try and appease everybody your whole life. And then all of a sudden you become at whatever age it happens for you. And you're like, I don't think I want to do that shit no more. I just don't want to do it.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah. You've gotten to a different phase.
You don't feel bad about it. As before that wall hit, you didn't want to do some of the stuff, but you felt so bad about it, that you would still try to do it. And then all of a sudden something happens, that wall happens and you cross that wall and you're like, I don't want to do it. And I don't feel bad about not wanting to do it.
No, I think that's so true. I'm trying to think of the movie I watched. I watched a movie recently and a young person is watching his sister, like teenage sister, choose a boyfriend who's not very nice to her. And the young boy this is a recommendation my daughter made to me because she gave me a list of coming of age films because they're like one of my favorite films to watch. Because I believe we're also in our second coming of age, which that's a whole other episode. But in this film, this younger brother, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's the film.
Oh my God, I love that movie. Like literally, as you were saying this, I'm like, I wonder if that's Perks of Being a Wallflower.
I got shivers. Like it's so brilliant.
It's so good.
So that you have to watch.
It's been a while, but now I want to rewatch it. Yeah,
you have to watch it. Listening to David Bowie as they're driving through a tunnel with her hands up in the air in a convertible vehicle. So the perks of being a wallflower. There's some really great lessons and takeaways. But this younger brother who witnesses his sister choosing this boyfriend who's not kind to her says to his teacher at school, "Why do people choose people who are not nice to them to love?" And he says, we choose the love that we believe we deserve. And it may have been slightly rephrased. We accept the kind of love that we believe that we deserve. And it's repeated more than once in the film. And so it was one of the pieces that I took away and I kept them thinking about and coming back to. And I think in a way, full circle, that comes back to Denise, what you were just saying, which is I think with wisdom in bloom, as we get older, experience, drawing on and reflecting on our own, the joys and the sorrows and the grief and the loss and the hard and the scary and all the things.
All the things.
When we get older, we no longer accept the way that we used to. Because now we accept what we believe we deserve. And that is in romantic relationships, that is in friendships, that is in colleagues, that is in work relationships. And I think that we just become, as you said, recognizing more what we deserve and no longer accepting the kind of friendship or fake friend or treatment in an office experience. We just no longer accepting that because we're like, I don't deserve that. What I deserve is a friend like Kamesha, a friend like Denise, a friend like Krista. It's a colleague like so-and-so or whatever. So I think that's, similar to what you're saying, Denise. That's what struck me when you said that so beautifully about, we make priority what's important, and we no longer just are as open to every single thing that comes along because we feel like we have to do it or we're going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Or we have to be everything to everybody.
Everybody.
All
Exactly.
the things. We have to be everything to everybody.
You have to learn. Well, because when you're younger, you're basically just doing what you're told, right? And so when you...
Or what society tells us.
Oh, yeah, or what you think is right.
Or whether it's your society, or whether it's your neighbor, or whether it's just some random person at a store that says you can't go down that aisle or whatever, right? You're just doing what people tell you. And then as you get older and you learn more about yourself and the world, that's when you feel like you can have more freedom. Versus when you're younger, you really don't have that much freedom as a kid, right? Like you just don't. Whoever your caretakers, they got a lot of rules, right? They got a lot of things they want you to do and places you need to be and stuff you have to follow. And they're doing the best they can, teaching you all the lessons that they've learned that they think should be imparting. But at the same time, sometimes it's difficult for you to figure out who you are in that because you're busy being all of the things people tell you to be. And so you have to... you have to go through some life to find out who you are, to be able to say, this is what I deserve, not just what they told me I deserve or what they told me I should have, what they told me I should be aiming for. It's like, no, I don't want those things, or I do want those things, but I want them to look a different way. But you have to kind of grow into that, I think. And so that's where we are. We've grown into that and are continuing, right, to like evolve and grow into that. Yeah.
And I think that I love that we grow into that. And I think for me anyway, having my girls, my two daughters who are 23 and 20, they couldn't be a bigger influence, nor could they be any more my world than they are in all the ways, but certainly also in the way that now I see them forging this course, and I watch what they're up against and what they're choosing based on their own life experience and the life that my husband and I have created for them in so much as we've been able to do that. But I watch them, and it's a minute by minute reveal of not only my own experience at that age, but also everything that influences the generations now in their choices and in their worlds. And so it's fascinating, and it's all at once both like so completely fulfilling and just like I couldn't be more proud of my girls. And then it's also like so deeply difficult to watch what they and the rest of all of the generations that are coming up are up against.
You know that, Andrea, but you know what I've noticed watching my kids are much older. My kids are 40, 38, and 34, I think. Oh God, I don't know how old they are. But
it's okay.
I know they're all over 33, but I just don't know.
33 plus.
Nailed it.
She might not even be 40 yet. Maybe she's 39. I don't know. But
no, I don't think. I think she's gonna be 40 next
Is she 40, Kamesha?
No, I don't think so.
No. But what I have noticed by watching them and watching my grandchildren, this other generation coming, my My two oldest grandchildren are 19 and 17, 19-year-old boy, 17-year-old girl. What I have noticed in them that I didn't have was the spirit to say no.
Yes.
Kids
Interesting.
Yes, it's
they
true.
Yeah.
boundaries without
Yeah.
even
Good for
knowing
them.
that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
set boundaries. And
Yep.
at first I used to battle with them and buck it. Talking about you got to do it, you have to do it because so and so saying you have.
Right.
You won't. And I wish that someone had told me at a younger age, no, you don't. You
Yeah.
actually have to be
Yeah.
everything to everybody. You
Well, it
are
was considered talking back and being rude
Yes,
if we didn't,
That's
if we
right.
spoke up, right?
Right.
And so
Oh,
we
you
got
couldn't do
used to
it.
making ourselves small.
But
Just
also
do what you're told.
you have to understand, Denise, don't be so hard on yourself because it was the time, right? So
Mhm.
you're from the generation before, right? You were raised based on what the generation before was going through.
Yeah.
Versus your grandkids are not raised from that generation. So
No.
the people that raised you were
I barely
probably
made Gen X, girl. I
yeah,
barely.
but so
I was
your
my
generation that raised you were like boomers or the silent generation.
yeah.
So that
Mhm.
generation, and especially being Black in America in the South, you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. You couldn't. You couldn't. It was a
There
life
were
or
no
death
boundaries
thing.
to be
So they
set.
had to teach you something different. Your
Yeah.
grandkids are not from that time. So
Yeah.
they grew up in a time where they had more freedom to do things that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
So
true.
they can say no. So it's not, you would not have been able to do that because of when you were born and where, right?
Mhm.
It just wasn't
Mhm.
possible.
And they say no with complete context. It's not just no, it's no because, and it's like boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
And they
You know
say
what I mean?
why.
And they say
Yeah.
why. So it
Yeah.
isn't like just no. It's no because it's not fair. And if I do that, this is what's going to happen. I don't want
But
to
you
do
probably raised your kids in a way, your old kids that you can't remember how old they are, but because you, but because you were
Yeah,
so stifled,
I
you
was
gave them
very
more
much.
freedom. So because you gave them more freedom, they gave their kids more freedom. So because
Mhm.
their kids have more freedom,
Yes.
they can say no and they can say
Yeah.
this is why.
And it's
you-
a shifting. It's
you know what?
an actual shifting.
Yeah, but you know
Yeah.
what? My kids don't feel like I gave them freedom to explore, but I gave them freedom of communication. So, and I don't know if that made a big difference, but there was some traumas that happened in my life that made me super, like, probably unhealthy, overprotective of them. So I didn't give them the freedom to explore, but they absolutely had the freedom to communicate, no matter what they said, no matter how it came out, no matter what words they used. Me and my husband would allow them to communicate, just say it, just tell it, whether we like it or not.
Right.
And I do believe that they have passed that part on, more. But I mean, they also tell me I didn't allow them
All
to
the things you didn't do.
explore. But
Oh, of course they'll point those things out.
yeah,
Yes,
And they will
that's
continue.
kids' jobs. Just like my dad didn't let me get a scooter. It's
Right.
children's
And then he
jobs
went going
to tell their
himself.
parents. Yeah, it's children's jobs to tell their parents what they didn't
Right.
give them.
Yeah.
Communication is a form of exploration.
Yeah,
It
it is
is.
huge. It's such a powerful gift
There is
that you
only
can
like
give.
yeah, like that's
Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
exploration when there are no
Yeah.
boundaries on
What
being
you can
able to
say.
communicate.
Mhm.
That is like the ultimate exploration. So your kids got the best exploration that they could have had.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just don't know how old they are, honestly.
After 30, you can
After 30.
probably not, you
We're
know what I
good.
mean? Like maybe you'll remember when they turn 40. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like a big,
Like a big
Evidently not,
milestone.
because I have one that I think maybe, I don't know. She knows. She's fine.
I tell my sons that, well, I know how old they are though. They're 24 and they're 26. So I do know how old they are. But I've told them this probably for like the last 5 years when they started with the, Mom, you didn't do this when we were growing up and you should have given us this and you didn't. And I said, listen, there might be a time when you find yourself in a chair talking to a therapist about your childhood. Okay. Just know that your parents did the best they could. That's it.
There you
That's
go.
all I got for you.
That's it.
We
That's
did the best we could. Because I'm sure that day is going to come. It's come for all of us, probably, whether it's a friend therapist or a therapist, right? But just know we did the best we could.
That's right.
That's
That's
it.
right.
That's all we can do.
I always say this. We are constantly, as Gen X's, unlearning the stinking stuff and learning stuff that matters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's the second coming of age in some ways, because if you think about it, like, and I've often pictured this, like, if you think about what draws people to youth, it's the possibility, it's the change that's unfolding, it's the growth, it's the curiosity, it's the yearning, it's the hard parts that seem so kind of like in some ways poignant and romantic. It's the lessons, it's the like,
risk,
all of that. It's the risk.
Yeah.
It's that, it's like the intensity of the feelings. Like, that's what youth does for people. It draws people in because of all of that. And I picture that when you hit a certain point, like in your middle years, in your midlife, that all of that is almost transferred into yet another moment in time where, just like teenagers and early 20s, your hormones are changing. There's growth because a whole bunch of life circumstances are changing. That's growth. There's new because of all those changes. A whole bunch of things are new and never been done before or never been experienced before. There's yearning, which is the same, because all at once you're now in a different part of your life and you're like, I'm yearning for something and I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's something and it's something big and it's important. So there's like this almost duplication, I think, between those years in the teens and early 20s of teenage to adult and all that happens. And then people in their middle lives. And once again, all of those things, that change and that yearning and that new. And the launch into then what comes beyond that, just like the launch that kind of takes us from our 20s into those adult years. So I feel like there's something, there's a pattern or a repeated kind of storyline that kind of unfolds in midlife that is freaking exciting. Because how exciting is that time in our youth when all of those things are happening? I think we get to have two of them.
Yes.
So, which is why
and
we're like
they're much
regenerating
better. It's like a better, you know, coming of age because we're fueled with more tools and experience.
Exactly. Exactly.
And more confidence.
More confidence.
Yeah. We get to take a whole bunch of stuff with us into that second coming of age.
And we can say no with conviction.
Yep.
So we can leave behind some of the like really shitty things about the first round. And we'll leave some of those behind, and then we'll take along some of the really great stuff. But we still get all of those like really, really special things, like firsts and like first grandchild, Denise, like becoming a grandparent, you know, a totally new career.
This has been wonderful, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
Today.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. This was a good.
Thank you.
Keep blooming, ladies.
Keep blooming, keep blooming, keep blooming, keep blooming.